Okay, so I thought I would do another grading video, starting from scratch again, just to help you familiarize yourself with different methods and rhymes and reasons of how we start. Because the last one I pretty much just started from the building and just started grading. This one, I want to look at this one a little bit different. The site's a lot different. The layout's different because I've got existing grade to connect to here and over here, and then connecting to the highway. I've got some ditches over here, some low spots, so got some existing sewer here, sewer manhole. So I need to think about kind of how I want to do things before I get started and how I want to direct things. I really think that I can come in here in somewhere like in this area and put a pond and catch all this front water, and then I'm going to come back here. I'm just throwing something just so you can see what I'm talking about. Put a pond in the back and catch off of the water that comes off of the building. I don't have to catch any of this because I'm not all of this goes that way. I'll direct all that direction. So that gives me a start of where I want to be with my where I want to put detention and where I want to do something to figure out how I want to grade this thing, because I want to determine what finished floor we got to start. We got to start somewhere with a finished floor. So as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that I'm going to slope my parking lot this way and put it into this area. So what I know is that it's a little low on this side. It's like, it's 2 feet from here to here of slope. So what we know is that this existing building that's next door, an old slab that's here, is it's like 103.3, 103. It could be 104, 105, 103 and a half is probably what that building was at. Just trying to determine what elevation we want to set it out. The highway, the road out here looks to be about 105, where the existing drive used to cross right here. It looks to be like at 105 for the existing road. So we want to be close to that if we can. The further off, the more okay it is if it's a little lower. So I think the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out, okay, if I start here and go that direction, and I try to stay within, say, this is about 4 feet from right here to here. So if I go to 101 and 4 feet, I can raise a foot, right? So I could be at that's a 3 to 1 slope, and so that would put me at 102. So I could come right here, go to feature line, create a feature line. Before I get started, I'm going to back up right here. We always like to have a site for all our feature lines and civil 3D work because it groups things. Small project, it really doesn't matter that much as long as you just have one, you have it on the same. When you get to bigger projects, you may do different sites so that they don't overlap and you're doing separate things in a big subdivision or somewhere like that. But I usually have one. But I do want to clean this up because I will tell you this. I'm not a big template guy, okay? If I did a lot of subdivisions and a lot of big jobs, I probably would say probably ought to have some templates and do your work, start from the template drawing. But we do site design, small projects, 1 to 2 acres most of the time, and they're constantly evolving, and the concepts that we work for are constantly changing. The requirements that we work for are constantly changing. So what I found is I just take the last project I did, maybe the last project I did, but at least the last one real close, real similar for this client that's doing, and save as and start over because it just works good. Now on my existing and proposed projects, I did go through in my last video the first phase and showed you how to set a project up. And you may want to look at that video for the information. But in a proposed drawing, I don't have anything in here except I XREF in the site layout, and then I data shortcut in the surface, the existing surface, and that's all that's in this thing. So the only only line work in this drawing will be the grading to the surfaces. Any reference lines that I use, and I'll put a bunch. I use a lot of polylines and stuff. That'll be on layer 0, and then my feature lines. There's nothing else in here, and I explained all that in an earlier video, another video for grading part 1. You may want to go back and look at that. I'm not going to go through that now. So what I haven't done is I haven't taken this drawing and cleaned it up. So basically, what I'll do is I'll go in and delete out the sites that's there to make sure it's there, and then I'm going to go in here and make sure my data shortcuts are set in the right place. I have the right surface in here because it was set up by somebody else, but what they didn't do is they didn't set up the data shortcut folder, which doesn't matter right this minute, but I'm going to set it up sooner or later. And data shortcuts are nothing more than the way Civil 3D objects relate, like X references. So I can XRef or shortcut in something to a project later. You can do some research on that. So I'm going to set the working folder for this, and it's going in my folder here, and then I'm going to immediately associate a project to the current drawing, and it's there. And I notice there's no surface here. So what I need to know is, and where did this surface come from? What that tells me is that when whoever did this, they just saved as and then data shortcut it in. They forgot to data shortcut it in. That's a hot drawing in here, because if you come over here and we go into our source drawings for Civil 3D, and I didn't talk about this. Civil 3D basically wants you to have a production, a source drawing, or excuse me, wants to have you a drawing, a place to put everything. You need to go research how to set that up. I'm not going through all that in these videos. I have an existing topo already set up. There's my topo. Everything looks good right there. Let that load up, and notice there is my surface that I'm working with. That is the right surface. That is the right data shortcut for this folder. So I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to make a double check that, right click that, check the surface, and I'm going to associate the project, just make sure it's there. And I'm going to create data shortcuts for this and put it in there. And then I'm going to close this. I'll save it because I made a change to it. Then I'm going to come back to mine, and now you'll see the data shortcut in here. And if you look at this surface, you see that the way that's labeled right here. I'm going to delete this because I'm going to redo it. I'm going to delete it out. And now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create a reference just like you would XREF in a drawing. You create a reference here. In this drawing, because there's nothing here except for design stuff, a couple layers, I don't care what layer that comes on. That is the layer I want to put it on. I don't care what layer. I do care what style it is. I want it to be an existing contour style for me. I'm going to hit OK. And now that surface is in here. I'll show you when I create the new surface later. I can't do anything to this surface. There's nothing there. If you create a new surface, I'm just going to create a dummy surface. You got all this definition stuff where you create and do the surface. There's not one for XREF data shortcutted in. That's how you know it's shortcutted in, is because there's nothing to do to it. All you can do is synchronize it and promote it. Now you can promote it just like you can bind an X reference and bring it in and make it part of this drawing, and then it's no longer shortcutted in. What the shortcut does is just like an XREF. I'm going to delete this dummy surface. Just like an XREF, if that surface gets updated, when you open this drawing up, it'll update the surface. So because that was that way, I need to go back and annotate some of my contours so I can see what they are. In an early video, I told you what I do is I go to surface, contour multiple for this drawing existing, because I really don't care. They don't have to be in around something or not around something or mask them out or moved around, because they're just there. So when I look at that contour, I know what elevation it is. I'm not here trying to put them and then I'm going to come back in and put other text from other areas in there or something. I just need to know what elevations they are, so I'm just going to put a bunch in here quickly. Okay, so now put them in there and labeled all my contours. Okay, That was free. That wasn't supposed to be part of this job, but that was free on how to do that. Alright, so now back to the corner here. We decided that that could be 102. So we're going to go here to home. We're going to hit feature line, create feature line. And it tried to create a site. Actually, it had to create a site when I brought that surface in. It won't put a civil 3D object without doing a surface. So if you remember a while ago, I deleted that site and all of it, now it's back again. Well, why is it back again? Because I referenced in a surface, which is a civil 3D object, and it's got to be on a site. So I'm just going to change the site name to the project that I'm working on right now. Okay. And now I'll go back to feature line. Just because I want it to relate to something that I'm familiar with, and if I put it on that site and I grab an object or something and I've got 4 different sites in there, I know, oh, okay, I can delete those other sites because I don't need them. Alright, so we're going to draw a feature line, pick the start point, tell it 102. We're going to go to here. We're going to grade. Alright, maximum grade I'm going to do on the sidewalk parking lot is 2%. If I force grade, now on entrances and drive aisles I may do a little different, but the parking lot area grade is 2%. I never don't like to do at 2, but I'll do that in this corner. I don't want to do any greater than that at this point. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to annotate, add line label. This right here is one of the best things I ever found, because when you go and start putting feature lines in AutoCAD, it's the craziest thing in the world. I can have a bunch of feature lines in here and have all the elevations. This is all X referenced in, and if I start a new feature line from the end of that feature line, if I have from this feature line right here, half the time it'll pick the elevation of that feature line, and half the time it'll pick the elevation of that object right there, which should be on 0. So you get ready and you start doing, and you get wide open and you're drawing lines in there and feature lines and everything, and you start picking, you don't know what the elevation is. So what I do is when I draw a line, I automatically create this line label that shows the elevation on both ends and the slope of that. So if I start here and I go at 2%, I'm at 103.3. Sidewalk, from the bottom of sidewalk, top of sidewalk, 6 inches. That gets me at 103.8. So I can be at 104 for the finished floor of that building right there if I want to be. That's probably about as high as I can go. I'm thinking that will probably work, because we don't have to. If I had to run my stormwater all the way around this building, which a lot of times I do, I'd have to be higher. So we're going to try 104 for our finished floor. That'll be a foot below here, so we'll be able to grade that driveway down and drop that water in here, which is great when DOT won't have anything going on to them, and that makes them happy campers. Okay, so what is the process? As I've discussed pretty in depth in the video before on this, what I like to do is around the building with all the sidewalks and the HVAC pads and such, I'm going to draw feature lines. That's the way we grade. I can't found a better way to do it. When you try to use grading objects and corridors and all that on a small site like this, it's a pain, because this site goes that way and then it goes that way and then it slopes that way, and those things aren't made to do that. I wish Autodesk had come to that far, but they haven't. So we don't have feature lines. One thing about feature lines is they're not really real easy to modify. They don't like to break and trim very easy. Just cumbersome. They want you to click 4 times, stuff you can do at 1 time. And so what I do is I tend to draw a bunch of polylines around my building and my sidewalks and such, and I'll offset those and get those like I want them, and then I'll start turning them into feature lines and giving them elevation. One thing that you need to know about AutoCAD, Autodesk, and Civil 3D is Autodesk does, Civil 3D can't do vertical surfaces. With that, what that means is if you want to put a wall in or a curb or anything that has an elevation difference from this point to that point, and there's no change in the X direction, they can't do it because it creates triangles, and they have to be 3D triangles, but they can't be in the same plane. They have to be in a different plane. So what we found is that I found that you got to offset it so that now that's not a straight line in reality. And what I have found is that 0.1 is the key for that. I really explained that well in the first video I did. This video I'm just going to go around and start drawing. So first thing I want to do is I want to draw my polyline around my building, outline for my building. I'm going to put a point on both sides of the door because everywhere I know that I want to put an elevation, and I want to tell it what the elevation is with a feature line. If I pick that with my polyline, that will automatically create one there. You know, I'm working on my base plan. You notice something screwy right there, so I've got to go back in and modify my base plan real quick. And I'm going to do that while I'm here because I just want to show you what it's about. It's what the world's about. I get the base plan from the architect, and I copied it in. Already had one set up, and some things didn't just come in just right. So what I'll do is I'll go to my plan from them. So just bear with me. Whoops, not survey base. And I'm going to grab that little corner right there because it's in the, make sure it was in their drawing too. So my computer's running a little slow right here on these drawings. I don't like something about this drawing. I don't know what it is. It is to me a couple of times already. So just be patient a second. There we go. I'm just going to grab that line right there. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I know it's backwards. But this is the only time when I copy. This is the only time I do that. So I'm going to copy with base point of right here because I don't know, because they're not in the same, they may not be in the same place with theirs. And I'm going to clipboard. Now I'm going to paste this as a block because I already know what's going to happen. It came in way up here. Why? Well, if you're working in AutoCAD, Civil 3D is part of AutoCAD, your units can be either one unit, you tell it what your units are. So one unit in what I do is a foot in regular Civil 3D, regular AutoCAD stuff that I'm doing. But it also can be 12 inches to be architectural. So this is an architectural floor plan, but it didn't really matter about that. What happens is there's settings in here that when you insert objects, whether that be when you copy and paste objects in, they either come in as your units as 1 or units as 12. And I never know which one. I don't know where the setting's buried at. I just know this. When I bring in something and it's way bigger than it should be, it's 12 times too big. And if I bring it in and it's way littler than it should be, it's 12 times too small. So I can just grab that object, pick that base point and scale it down 1 divided by 12, and I got it back where it needs to be in the right place. And I do that a lot when I go from an architectural drawing to an engineering drawing because they are different. The architectural's 1 unit is an inch, and in engineering 1 unit is a foot. So there's 12 times difference, and when you copy objects back and forth between them, they're just almost always going to be 12 times difference, whether it's too big or too small. So that part was free. So I'm going to continue that polyline. And I was working with this the other day, and I had a guy that was watching me and learning, and he asked me why my lines were trying to go straight and doing. Well, that's because I didn't turn my ortho off. And ortho is orthogonal, which means straight up and down, left and right, 90 degrees. And I tend to sometimes leave it on and sometimes I don't. So I just used F8 to turn it off. And so I hit every place right there. I hit a point where I want an elevation change. Now I'm going to just hit J for join and join that polyline and make it one. All right, now we talked about being offset. That's the finished floor. The sidewalk, the grass outside, the HVAC pad, everything's going to be at a different elevation than the building. So, but I can't do a vertical plane, so I'm going to offset it a 1/10, okay? And then I'm going to come back in. I'm going to draw my sidewalk, turn my intersection, snap on to, so that it'll pick there. So I'm going to come in here and do my sidewalk. And actually, I'm going to do something else first. I'm going to come right here and go from right there to right here. So when I grade this area, the front door can only be a 1/2 inch difference in the sidewalk right here for ADA access. So what I do is I make this whole front part from this point to this point the same elevation, actually all the way to, and then I slope away from the building at 1%. So from this point to that point is pretty much flat. So I'm going to draw me a line here and here, because when I draw this polyline in, I want to go ahead and get the break line point in, and I don't have to come back and add it in later. It's just easier that way. You'll see when I do the feature lines that go with that, it'll make a little more sense. Okay, so I'm going to get my sidewalk, and I'm going to put one right here and right here, and I'm going to draw one right here, because in all actuality this is a landing and that's a ramp down to the grade below, because this is all 6 inches higher, and they got to get into the building for this loading dock right here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and offset my sidewalk a 1/10, because there will be differences there. I'm not going to trim that right there. Well, actually I am, but this is weird right here, because it's going to be, you got a curve going that way, so it's a little bit of weirdness right there. We'll address that when we do our feature lines. So we're going to go around. This elevation, that elevation are the same. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to show it, because what I told you in an earlier video is that yes, there is a 6 inches difference from here to here. We're going to do that and show that with our spot elevations, but we physically can't be vertical, so something's got to be off a little bit. So what we do is we make sure that the point that we're going to label with our spot elevations, we're going to make sure that it is the point that we pick for our real elevation. And here they may be a little bit different, but they'll be 6 inches off. Ramp slopes and stuff may be a little different, but I'll show you that when we do our our feature lines. Okay, so that gets us around the sidewalk, 6 inches off. This is the side slope of that ramp, because we don't want that ramp to be, we don't want this to be a hard surface here, a 6 inch drop off from here to here. We want to slope down like you would a handicap ramp. And I just realized that I need to do the same thing right here. And so what I'm going to do is, this is really actually part of my base plan. This little ramp slope right here. So I need to come in here, and so what I did is I double clicked on it and opened my X reference up, and I'm going to change my X reference, and I'm going to put that slope right there, and it's 1 to 10 in that direction, which is 5 foot. So I'm going to put that slope right there, and I'm going to match that layer, and I'm going to edit, save changes, and hit OK. And now I have a line for that size, so that neither one of these step off. If this was a 6 inch step down, somebody's going to fall and break their leg. So we'll do that. So now we have our now we have it going around. It goes around here. This went up and down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up right here, because that goes away like that. Because what really happens is that sidewalk hits here, and then we're 6 inches lower here. We got to show that line right there. Okay. Now, let's go around our HVAC pad. And every place we're going to have a elevation, we're going to have a line across there. That we're going to offset our tent so we can get down to the ground. Right there. And offset there. There, and this is weird. You can, whoops. You can trim or whatever. I'm filleting with a radius of 0. It's just quicker for me that way on that port. Okay, so now I have everything around the building. So I'm ready to go ahead and let's go ahead and set our elevations around the building for that. So I think we're going to be, we decided we're going to be at 104 for our finished floor. So I'm going to go here, feature line, create feature line from objects. We'll pick that line. It's going to default to rolling fork. I default all this. You can look at that setting and see, but that's the standard AutoCAD default right there. The only thing I'm going to do on this one is I just told you that what elevation it's going to be, and there's a lot of points on that line, so I want to go ahead and tell it that so I don't have to come back in and individually do it. So I'm going to tell it to be 104. And so now we're going to go back to our annotate tab, get our lines here. We're going to label that. It's going to tell you that we're at 104. And if I click any point, any line on here, it'll tell you it's 104. Okay, so now we're going to click this and move this down just a little bit. Home, feature line, from objects. Now we don't want to set an elevation because I want to put each elevation for this as I go. All right, I need to be a ½ inch down from here. So what I know is that I know what that elevation is. So I'm going to use this handy dandy little triangular tool right here. It says set grade slope between 2 points. Basically what it lets me do is pick this point, tell it what elevation I want it to be, and follow that line around to wherever I want to tell it. For if I want a continuous grade all the way to there, I could tell it that. But I don't. I want an elevation right here, and I want a grade of 0. Okay. Then I want to pick right here, and that elevation, or whoops. Okay, so yep, I typed in 130, didn't I? So see, I screwed that up already. And this is how I check that. I'm going to label that. Hit flip label so it gets on the right side, so I can see. Ooh, I set that the wrong height. Oops. Got my numbers back. Got a little dyslexic right there. I'm just going to click on it right here, and you can do it that way. And we'll do that some later. Or I can actually click on it on the elevation editor, and basically every place that I put a point creates a station, and it starts at 0 and goes through. So that line's 199 feet around the perimeter. So it has those 2 lines. I can pick those 2 lines, and I can tell it should have been 103.96, and it changed both of those, and it jumped right there. And you know which you can click on these, and if you follow them around, when you get to the point you want, if you look down there in that corner, click on these and get to the one you want, one that you're on, the triangle comes up right there. So you know you're in the right one. When it goes away, you're on the wrong one. So that's how you know which one it is. I don't use that very often because on a long one like that, I got to figure out where I'm at. But I don't if I grab it right here. I use this slope grade. It says elevation 103.96. That's exactly where I want to be. Then I want to grade, G for grade, -1 right here. And then I'm going to click this point, continue grade 0. And then I hit enter too many times, so it made me start over. Pick that elevation and grade 1.0. Okay. And then now I'm going to the corner. I usually set this corner a 1/10 lower than that. So when I go from this point to this point, I'm going to go to 103.9. Okay. And then I want to go from here. This is a handicap ramp. Slope 1 to 12, 6 inches lower. So that's going to be elevation 103.50, right? Nope. 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 It's 40, not 50, because it should be 9 minus 4, so it's 103. I did it again. 103.40. It's flat across the bottom. And then all the way around here, from right here. And now I'm going to follow this all the way to here and grade 0. And what you'll see is it gave me an elevation of 103.90 right there. Okay. Then I got to there, so let's go back in the other direction. So we'll click on this. Grade slope 103.96. Grade minus 1.0. Click here. Grade 0. Click right here. Grade 1.0. And then go from here to here to elevation 103.90. Okay, that gets us to there. Now we can work our sidewalk around right there. So we click on here and feature line from objects. Okay. Go here. We're going 1% from here. Grade minus 1.0. And then we don't know what that elevation is yet, but if we take these two lines right here, create objects, and then we come back in here and label them, what we know is, we know that one end is 103.97, 103.97, because they should be the same if we did them right, if we went 1% and 0%. We can come right here, go right there, click on that one, default to that one, grade minus 1, and pick this one up right here, grade minus 1. And so now we set the elevation, and because we put our points in there like we were supposed to, because these are feature lines, if that's an elevation point right there, if I gave that elevation to that, it gives the elevation to this line too. So it's got it here and here. So it tells you the slope in that direction, and then we have that one, that slope in that direction. So we're good there. Now we're going to come in here and add a couple of feature lines right here. 103.9, that's what we set right there because that's the top of that. We know that. Elevation, not elevation, grade minus 1.0. Okay, that'll give us an elevation across there. And we'll do the same thing at the bottom of the ramp. Right there. Grade minus 1.00. And we'll do the other side of the ramp. 103.9, 104, grade minus 10. We'll check them. That one, that one, that one. Flip the label so we can see it. Okay, and then let's go to the top. 103.9, grade minus 1, and then we'll see that it put it right there. Yes, it just didn't pick it up from here. So we're going to just go right here, and then it's 103.8. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come right here. Okay, so what happened was, you see right here, we didn't put a PI point right here, so we need to add one. And so you see it's not there. What you also see is this is that point. So if I go somewhere else, if I click on that grayed out, what that says is all these green ones here, that means, hey, that's a real live point and I can move that. That says, hey, you got a point that another feature line's crossing us and it's giving us this, so it's forcing us to be this elevation. Is that what you want to do or not? So let's fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to insert PIs, we're going to click it right there. I don't know if that elevation is right or not. Why don't I know? Because I didn't label that line right there. So now I'm going to have to go here and just default with it because I don't know what it's supposed to be. Add that one, 103.9. So it was supposed to be 103.84, but that's why I use the add label, because of things like that. If I'd have had that labeled, I wouldn't have had to guess. I would have known for sure. Now I can come in here, that point, I'm going to make that 103.8. Okay. Alright, so now I've created my sidewalk all the way around. Let's go here to the door. And we know what that is. And so really and truly, I put some PIs in there, but that point right there, that's going to be 103.96. And I'm just going to grade all the way to here at 0. Okay. Because they're not going to step that sidewalk down right there. If they do, they'll slope it down, but they're not normally. And I also went too far right there. Forgot to trim that out. So we'll click here and see that it did do what I did again. I got dyslexic again. That's why you label them to 103.96. Get my fingers in there. Grade 0. Okay. You notice when I finished that, it didn't automatically update this one. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. If it doesn't, just hit regen, just regenerate your drawing, and it'll update it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and create a feature line from objects for this right here. Okay. Because I know if that's 96, I want that to be 90. So if I do this 103.90 and that grade 0, I did it again. I'll get my numbers right in a minute. 103.90 grade 0. Okay. There we go. Okay. And now this slopes down 6 inches on both ends. So if I take and grab it right here, it'll move that one and that one. So it needs to be 103.40. And it needs to grade 0. Okay. And then we'll put some labels on here just to make sure that we got them right. Okay. And we did. And I got that because this one actually goes all the way back up to there. So we have that. So we got our sidewalk in. Let's put these slopes in the bottom parts in. And like I said, it doesn't matter that, let's create these from objects. And this one. It doesn't matter that these may be off just a little bit. What you're going to find is that I need to insert a PI right there. I don't care what the elevation is, I'm going to set it. Okay. We're going to make this be what I'm going to do to make my design easier right here. I'm going to make that 103.9 right there and right there. And actually I can't do that. I'm going to have to make this slope from here to here. And then I'm going to slope from here to here and grade 0. Because I've got to set my curve right here, but I can't slope. I can't do what I was going to do. I was going to make that curve 103.90, but it's too steep right here and it doesn't meet ADA, and my client wants this to be ADA access right there. Okay, so all right. So what I know is that's 103.90 right there. So I'm going to go here 103.93 and 103.90. And then what I know is that elevation is 6 inches lower than this, and that elevation is 6 inches lower than that. So that should be 103.430. It didn't like that. Did something wrong. 103.430 and 103.40. Now, one thing you'll see is, so I wanted to do this more than anything, is that this is This is a handicap ramp. 1 in 12 is 8.33% slope. If you notice, this slope shows different because of all these offset things. When we tell them what elevation, we're going to tell them that point and this point. These points won't show up in any kind of labels or anywhere. They're just there so the surface looks right and we don't get any weird contours. And you'll see it as we make the surface. So it's okay if the slope's just a little bit different, because all three of those points are the same elevation. It makes the slope different. Or, okay, I want it to be 8.33 and I calculate all that down there, and then that point's going to be the one in that point, and in reality that point really doesn't exist in the real world. In that place, that point really is right there in the real world. So just don't let that throw you when you go laying out things this way. But that's the way you have to do this. Okay, it's the way you have to grade with Civil 3D. Okay, so we labeled to that point, right? Because we'll check this one right here. It's got elevation on both ends. So we'll highlight right here, and we'll go from here. We actually can go all the way to there. Whoops. We better tell it what we want it to go to, right? 103.40. And you can go all the way to here at a 0 grade. And then we pick it up from here to here at 103.40. Okay? So then what we really ought to do is put a PI right here at 103.90. Because that's really the top of that. And notice that you would have thought, oh, you just go perpendicular to here. No. If I'm going to label that in my drawing, I'm not going to pick that point, because I'm going to have to come back a tenth and come back this way and that way. I'm going to pick that point right there. So that's where the elevation is going to be. Okay? All right. Now, let's do feature line from objects here to get the bottom of the sidewalk there. Now, if we did it right, it should have picked up that elevation. And it picked up an elevation. And what happened was, I did something weird right here when I went here, grade 0, and didn't get it right. Now it's right. This didn't update, right? Like I told you, sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. Do a quick regen, and it picked it up and it fixed that in. So we can go here. What we know is, whoops, sorry about that. What we know is that point is 6 inches lower than the point above it, so it's 103.30. I did it again at 103.30 from there, and we didn't put a point in here, and we should have. I'm going to put an insert a point right here, because I like to do both sides of my handicap ramp or close to it, and I didn't have it. So, and I'm going to call it, I'm going to let it, whoops, insert PI. And I'm going to let it be just a straight grade from here to here. Okay. Which is not much difference. It's 803, but it'll work. So then I'm going to insert a PI right here using a parent intersection in elevation 103.303. Okay. Alright. Now, I know that elevation right here is the same as this one, 301, grade 0. And I actually have one right here, and that's 103.301, and that's 103. What is that? 358. I'm 6 inches lower. So I've graded across here, through here, and we'll click on those and flip them so they're easier to read. So we know where it's right place. I'm going to freeze that. I don't need that sign on in here. Okay. Alright, something's not right. Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we're okay. That's the top of that. We didn't have PI right there. It's fine. It's okay. But notice I checked it. 103.3, 03, 04. They're not right. They're not the same ending. Some ain't right. And it's because that goes to there, not to there. But it's okay in this drawing. 301, 301, 358. So we're good. Now, right here, I'm going to be 6 inches lower, 103.358 to this corner right here, 103.301. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to break this right here. Now I'm going to try this, but usually light to fix me up. Usually can't break. You have to. What I found is I have to break a brake line at the same point, because if I tell it I want to break it there, actually let's try it. If I want to break that feature line at that intersection, freaking broke it right. Sorry guys. Usually it breaks the whole thing off, but for some reason it worked right the last video I did. So I reckon I need to do videos every time so it works right. So, but that elevation should be the same. It's going to be the same as the corner elevation. So it should be, that ends the right end. Yep, because that's the elevation. Should be 103.301. And I'm not going to the 100, so it's not going to really matter. Okay, so we have graded everything but the HVAC pad. Let's put the HVAC pad. I usually put it anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. But what we got was this HVAC pad is going to set itself this time, because if we do feature line from objects with that, and that one, all that. This is an egress door, so it's got to be up high. So it's got to be at 103. Yeah, almost did again. 103.96 in grade 0. And then here, grade -1. Click on that one. Grade, whoops. Grade -1, 0. And what I'm doing is I'm hitting escape. I hit it too many times. I was on top of that one. When I finish the command, because that's the only way I know how to get out of those, because whoops. So, alright. Then I'm going to come right here and I'm going to continue this from here to here at 1%. I'll add a label there. Flip it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and this is going to be the same as that, 103.821. And this is going to be 103.96. Fortunately, it has to be high like that side. And then this is going to be the same thing. It's going to be 103.821. And it's going to grade across here at 0. And then it's easier to just grab that one and tell it what elevation you want. Even though I had to click twice, it's just quicker to do it that way. And then this is going to be 6 inches lower. 546 and 103 point. It was 821, so it's 321. I didn't label it, so I had to guess. It was 821, yeah. Okay. And then go from here, 103.321 to here at 103.411. And here is 103.411 and 103.321 and 103.321 and 103.46. Okay, so we've graded around our building except for a little bit of grass area behind a curve here in this side of the building. I'm going to wait until I've graded everything else and got my pond in and all that stuff before I do these couple lines. I'm going to leave them in there white for two reasons. A, because it'll let me know I haven't done them. If they're white, that's layer 0, that's reference line, so I know that I haven't done anything with them. And if I do my surface and I forget to change them, it'll be very obvious because they're at elevation 0. We're at elevation 104 plus or minus. It'll tell me and it'll let me know where I'm at. So I leave them that way. That way, then I come back and if I do my surface and I forgot to do them, I'll come back and fix them and change them, and then they'll become feature lines, and they'll go to that feature line layer. So, all right. So that's end of part 1. We'll pick up with the next phase of grading in part 2.